Hey, what's up? Welcome to MixLife episode 6. I'm here with Clayton and Concrete River. We're going to talk a little bit about recipe building today and just some of the things that we do when we sit down to try to craft a recipe or come up with something new. Um, Pretty casual, should be pretty chill. Ask your questions in the chat. We'll be watching, and it should be fun. Go ahead and unmute, gentlemen. Say hello.
Hey there.
I did it again. This is the second time in a row where I started the show and I didn't pause the YouTube stream. And so I started talking to myself and it freaked me the fuck out. I could hear myself talking while I was talking. So the stream started and there's like a 2-second delay or whatever. So that was fun. Awesome. So before we start on the recipe building fun stuff, it's just what have you guys been doing new? Rick, got anything going on new?
Just still on that single flavor test grind more than anything else. Working on some stuff that's Mexican themed, but not overtly racist for the Mixers Club. So that's been fun. Decided to join that bread pudding shootout.
You're going to get in on the bread pudding shootout? You're going down.
Yeah. See, the thing about that bread pudding recipe, it uses cheese. So I'm a little apprehensive about going full on weirdo with it, but honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to it.
It's coming, man. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
Shit's going to get fucking crazy. I can't wait. I'm really excited. I've got like 2 revisions in the works already. The results are mixed still, but it's going to be fun. Clayton, you should get in on that Mixers Club stuff. It's really fun, dude.
I heard cheese. I said I vote no.
Well, so, no, the whole point is you send in your 4 10 ml samples of something with a theme, right? So like this theme is like fiesta foods, right? Cinco de Mayo and shit. So you could do like margaritas or fucking Mexican hot chocolate or whatever, like spicy hot chocolate. Any of that
sounds
stuff.
Pretty dope then.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave sent me the link. Like I checked it out. I'm definitely interested. It seems like a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's an absolutely awesome resource too. I mean, I've gotten more from being able to sort of workshop recipes and submit them to other people who mix without really having to worry about going through like the entire, well, do I release this? Do I not release this? It gives you like a nice halfway step where you're ready for some feedback without having to like be completely comfortable putting your name out there on something. So I've sent some weird shit in. Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube's be shitty, and well, let me put the actual link in the chat. So it's just reddit.com/r/Mixers Club. And like I said, you just send in your 4 10 ml samples, and people are forced to review it if they want to participate in like the whole rotation. So you have like, and I mean, it's not like forced, like we have to make them because it's fun. Like we all like sharing our recipes and giving feedback and getting feedback. And I think it's actually really helped me out a lot on a few recipes so far.
Sorry, so it's kind of like a buffer. It's kind of like a buffer.
Yeah, so you send in your here's a couple of them I got right here. You send in your 4 10 milliliter samples, 0 milligram nicotine, and you get back 4 from other mixers, or how many ever you send in. Like this month, we had a double submission basically, so I have 8 bottles to vape. A whole bunch of them. Got some from Mills, got some from Concrete River, some ID10T, Edible Malfunction. Who am I missing? I think that's it, but I'm not sure. And then we just at the end of the month, we sit down and vape them all, review them all, and read all our reviews, and it's pretty cool. And then there's like some contests and stuff like that too, so it's a lot of fun with some good competition. It's really helped. Having that feedback available really helps your recipe building a lot.
Huh.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna get involved. I'm not sure about this round, just because I'm like loaded with the workload right now. But
yeah, well, and there's only like 2 weeks.
Definitely paying attention.
2 weeks left for this round, anyways. So, you got to get your samples in by the 15th. So you ideally have them like in the mail by the 10th. So that cuts it pretty close, yeah.
Where do they ship to? Here in the States?
Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave runs it. ID10T, like he's the mail distro guy, and he handles all that stuff. So we send it to Dave. So you can also use that opportunity to send really awkward like sex toys to Dave. Don't tell him I told you to do that. Hopefully he's not watching yet.
He's super into it.
He's super into it, but he doesn't want us, making a big deal out of it. Anyway, so some basic recipe building block ideas, right? So for people out there that sometimes struggle, I saw a lot about people saying, "Oh, I want to make a strawberry cheesecake or whatever, but I don't know where to start." Take a look at a real world food. If it's a real world food thing, right? Take a look at like the real world food recipe and kind of like factor out the weight of what you're trying to build. So like a strawberry cheesecake is like 30% strawberry and 70% cheesecake, like in real life, right? So break down your ideal like kind of target range of where you want to end up as a percentage of a mix, and then break that down to, so say you want to go like 20/80 or something like that, right? So you want to have it 15-ish% like total flavoring, so you would do 5% of like total, 5 to 6% total strawberry blend, and then like 9-ish% like cheesecake and additives to kind of gauge your basics, and then look at what you have available and go from there. It doesn't always have to be just cheesecake flavors to build the cheesecake base. I usually only use like 3 or 5% of actual cheesecake flavorings, and then other things to kind of help guide the rest of the flavor. So you have like 2% fucking New York cheesecake, 3% graham cracker cheese or cheesecake with graham crust, and then maybe like 0.5% of graham cracker, maybe like 2% of sweet cream or 1% of sweet cream to help build the creamy body, and then your fruits, and then what the fuck ever. But recipe development can also be sort of like a land of happy accidents, where you just come up with an idea. My strongest recipe building habits are still like embedded in single flavor testing, right? So I'll get a new flavor in, or just be tired one day and make a fucking single flavor standalone of like a fruit, just because I'm exhausted and in a hurry. So I'll take my fucking, here, I'll start with this example. I just got in Jungle Flavors milk chocolate from Jarvis. She sent this to me along with all the other stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not really sure what to do with it yet. I don't know how well it'll work. So before I started trying to build it into a recipe, I just made a standalone at 3%. And I kind of vaped on it for a day or two, and then just sort of like thought about the other flavors that I've single flavor tested that I think would go well with it, right? So knowing your concentrates really well. And then I start with that one, and I think, well, maybe some fucking cream cheese icing will go really well with this. So I'm going to add that next. And then I make just the 2-ingredient recipe. And I just kind of build that over time, like over the course of like a week or two. And I usually do it in like little 10 ml bottles or 15 ml bottles, so I'm not wasting a ton of product or just vaping the same shit all the time. And then from that 2 version recipe, I'll kind of modify the percentages to make room for a 3rd and a 4th until I'm up to like 4 or 5 ingredients, and then I'm pretty happy usually with whatever the outcome is. And sometimes I'll decide to drop one in favor of another, or just to drop that entire idea entirely. What about you guys, Rick?
A lot of my recipe development, at least the stuff that I really enjoy doing, is kind of ad hoc. I do that same kind of process where, I'll think about something I really like as a single flavor test and then build off from there. The other thing, a lot of my recipes have sort of come from failed attempts to make something else, which is always kind of fun. You'll throw a bunch of stuff together and it's not what you want, but there's something really cool going on there. And then you end up chasing the really cool part of that. That recipe for the DIY or die mixers competition was exactly like that. I was trying to make a like tobacco hazelnut custard cream thing going on. I thought that'd be interesting, and it just was not working. But I hit on one of the revisions. It's like, oh, hey, that kind of tastes like a Danish. And then you just kind of iterate from there. You take the parts of the recipe that you like, and then you build off that. And again, going to sound like a broken record here, but that's again where knowing where your concentrates helps out. Knowing your concentrates helps out quite a bit. You can have that entire sort of vocabulary to build from, so you can take those smaller ideas and just kind of run with them without having to go through 10 iterations and burning yourself out on the entire idea of the flavor. I found that if I work on something too much, I get to the point where I just have no interest in tasting anymore. So I kind of like to get, 80% of the way there pretty quickly, and then do some end finish work. But yeah, a lot of my stuff just comes from accidents.
No, there's something to be said for a lot of that. A lot of like my favorite recipes came from accidents. So, like Sakura Sweets, which took a long time to develop after the fact, like started as a big accident because I was just fucking with Kappa biscuits. I had just gotten it in and I was like, man, this stuff smells awesome. And I had all these other weird flavors that I hadn't fucked with yet, so I just put them all in the same bottle. I was like, fuck it. I was really just super hyped up, and it was kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of an odd place there for me. So I just like went for it. And the first mix was like okay, wasn't as good, but over like, you know, a couple of revisions that took a lot longer than I wanted to do, they worked out really well. Yeah, happy little accidents. Like that's half of being a mixer is being able to like kind of leap on and take advantage of those happy accidents where you find that one, you know, a juice might suck sometimes, like a test mix, but there'll be like one little part of it that I really like. So I'll just take those two ingredients to make that one part and start something new. You know, so there's something to be said for people that are brave enough to just kind of go for it and jump in there and like come up with a rough hack percentage of 4 or 5 ingredient recipe. And sometimes it turns out really great. Sometimes it's bad, but sometimes that badness you can still find like a redeeming quality in there that is worth like taking the effort to save, you know? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the entire thing. I think at the end of the day, you know, doing the DIY mixing thing, I think I'm mixing more for myself than anybody else at this point. So it's nice to be able to kind of follow that rabbit hole wherever it goes.
I wanted to talk there, but I felt like a douche because I wasn't muting my mic. My bad.
It's all good.
But yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but yeah, accidents, man. You know, I don't think houses can be built without, you know, sand or rubble or anything like that. For me, it's like the accidents. You know what I mean? You get to that something, and like Kopel said, you know, you pick something out of a bad recipe. I mean, I don't think there's any good mixers out there that haven't made a bad recipe. You know, you put things together and it tastes awful at first, but there's that little part of it that's satisfying. So you try to identify what that part of that recipe is, and then you just pull from that and build from that. You know, but for me, I mean, a lot of times it's accidents, but when I first start, I try to do it from a nasal point of view. You know, my nose works better than my tongue does a lot of times. So I'll try to smell concentrates. For instance, you know, in Tony's Revenge, the recent Frosted Flakes I started with, at first smell, when I sniffed Capella's Cereal 27, it was dead on Frosted Flakes. You know, it was just missing some of the sweetness and some of the milky recipe. So I kind of just built off of that, you know, and after adding the milk, it was fairly simple after adding the milk. But I felt like there was some grain missing. And what better to add grain than acetylpyrazine? So that was actually a pretty simple recipe to put together. Sometimes it's a lot more complicated than that, but I like to use my nose when I'm building things.
Yeah, and I saw that Vex earlier in the chat was asking, you know, what do you do when you're out of ideas, when you're not having any luck mixing? And I think a lot of that is kind of in that same vein. You know, you smell stuff, you just go with what you want. You don't necessarily worry about banging out a completely finished, polished recipe. You're just looking for some actual inspiration somewhere along the line.
Yeah, you know, it probably seems weird, but there are days where I sit down to mix and then I spend an hour like just sitting and like sifting through my bottles and smelling them, like until I smell something that stands out, like, oh, that's what I want. Finally, I got it. All right, so I'm gonna go from there. Or sometimes I do like this thing, like, you guys ever see that show Chopped, right? Where you get like the mystery basket of fucking food and you have to cook it for a bunch of chefs.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I'll take like 30 concentrates out of my thing at random. Like I'll grab like 2 blind TFA, 2 blind Capella, 2 blind FA, 2 blind Inuera, or whatever, and I'll throw them all in a box and shake them up, and then I'll reach in and grab 3 and try to get myself to like something that I can use all 3 of those in, or at least 2 of them. So.
Well, and for inspiration too, it's not necessarily in the realm of approved DIY technique or anything, but a lot of times I'll just go ahead and, you know, get into something, like either listening to some music or, you know, just something that kind of gets my brain going a little bit. And generally it makes it a lot easier to connect those kind of dots too. You know, it's sort of capitalizing on a mood more than anything else for me when I'm feeling like I don't have any inspiration for anything.
And another thing that I found really useful is looking at other mixers' projects, seeing what they're putting out. You know, Kopel, Adam, Rick, Wayne. There's a lot of people in the industry now, especially new faces that are coming out, that are very inspirational because they approach things from a very different perspective. And it's always really refreshing when you see that. You know, like someone might use a lime, think to use it. You know, so it's nice to see someone else's perspective in their mixing. For me, that adds inspiration because I'll be bored with what I'm doing, you know, and then I'll see something and be like, damn, I'm hyper, I'm excited now. I want to try that, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said by community participation as a means to grow yourself as a mixer. I think that right now our community is really staged for that to be like a really, probably the best resource. When I first started mixing, we had ECF and Reddit, pretty much, and that was it. And the Reddit group at that time was maybe probably in a period where it was the most easily approachable, but and, you know, it waxes and wanes in its usefulness as a community, because sometimes people get jaded there, and the front page is full of nothing but read the sidebar, you know, which can be intimidating for new people. But that being said, yeah, using the community definitely is a huge resource. And, you know, if you guys ever watch like REJM, you obviously can't see it, but if REJM like Facebook chat, we just have a 24-hour Facebook chat open where we like blast ideas to each other all the time, talk about like, hey, has anybody used this flavor? Like, we have our own like sort of resource. But I mean, I encourage you to make friends in the community, you know, and build your own sort of small group, or even just one or two mixers that you really feel like you work well with or enjoy being around, and, you know, share your ideas with them and talk back and forth about it. Like, create conversation about your recipe or your work, and try to, you know, grow things together. And, you know, obviously if there's credit due for someone else giving you a really great idea, it's always a nice gesture to include that in your final release. But I mean, at the same time, you know, just having that discourse open and that open like communication back and forth has gone a long way for me in the last year, definitely. Oh shit, Wayne's watching. Party's over. Hi Wayne. How you doing, bud?
That.
Let's all try to look smart here.
Yeah.
Right, let's all put on our smart guy hats.
Hold on, let's brush our shoulders off, clean up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh God.
With guys, you know, I get inspiration from a lot of people, and I find it hard to do that sometimes because, you know, you'll forget that you'll forget where you got the inspiration. You know what I mean? And that's because most of us have like several projects that are going on at one time. So it's not the easiest thing to go back and give credit, but it's nice to give a shout out when you can do that, for sure.
Yeah, Vex makes a good point about doing kind of remixes of other recipes. And I think it's a great idea. It's a good idea, especially if you're not familiar with the profile, but you want to mess with it a little bit. You kind of still want to do something your own, you know. And again, like the giving credit where credit's due is really important there when you're doing remixes, you know. Make sure you credit the original author for their original inspiration for the idea, at least, you know, or talk a little bit about why you like the original so much and why your remix is different. And then that in turn helps, you know, everybody else as well. Yeah,
don't be afraid to steal. Just, you know, give the credit when you do.
I like to call it a creative reappropriation.
It's called borrowing. Yeah, it's called borrowing. I don't consider that stealing unless you absolutely jack the mix, because obviously we're all using pretty similar. Some of us have larger libraries than other people, so we may see a raspberry in a recipe and think, oh, you know, Inawares might fit there better than TFA Sweet Raspberry. So that's inspiration. It's not jacking. It's borrowing.
Right. No, I mean, there's, you know, and as a community, like, it's nice to have sort of a friendly competition too, you know, like, not in the mine is better than yours and you're a piece of crap kind of way, except for you, Rick, you're a piece of crap.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That just makes my day.
Well, I only have to say that once every show because of the FA cookie thing.
I'm telling you, it just has better texture by itself. That's all I said was that I like it more by itself than capped sugar cookie.
Get the fuck off my show. No, I'm kidding. Excuse me. But yeah, there's something to be said for sharing your ideas with the group, with your friends, and then I'm a stiffler for reviews. Is that what he says here?
Collective calibration.
So reviews, right? So it's been like a thing we've all talked about like a lot lately, like how people don't fucking leave reviews. And Wayne made a really good point on his show last night that maybe I don't think about often enough, and that's because new mixers especially are taking a big risk. You know, not a huge risk, but they're taking a risk by spending money on concentrates they may not have to mix your recipes that are less accessible because they have fucking a Flavora flavoring that nobody else uses very often, or an Inaware recipe flavoring. And I am notorious for releasing recipes with flavors that nobody ever fucking has, right? So I've kind of come to accept that most of my weird recipes probably won't receive as much, community review as others. So keep that in mind when you're releasing recipes, and if you're not getting reviews, like stop and think to yourself if it's accessible to the community by by means of its ingredients. But if you do have the stuff and you do mix somebody's stuff, please do take the time to leave a review, even if it's like just like 2 sentences. Like that's more feedback than we're getting. It's more than none, right? What do you guys think? Do you think accessibility is maybe something we don't think about as often enough when we're trying to take these like really advanced artistic approaches?
Personally, I hate to be the asshole, but they need to up their library. You know what I mean? They need to order some. I mean, sorry, if I put out a recipe, I feel like the better choice out of others that I have on hand that are similar, I'm going to use it instead. I may make in the notes, a note that says you can substitute this for such and such or whatever. I'll make an attempt. If someone else substitutes it and it works and they give me the feedback, I'll try it. If it works out, I'll make that an official substitute for the recipe. But I got to be the asshole here and say, if they don't have it, they need to get it.
No, I agree with you at some points. There's definitely like a line you have to draw with what can be substituted and what can't be, and what's the best in class for the recipe that you're working on. So no, you can't always make your recipes accessible. Just sort of having that expectation that when you use a bunch of flavorings that maybe aren't as popular or aren't common in the industry, like it's kind of to be expected, because it is a risk. Like these guys spend their $20-$30 to pick up all the concentrates for a new recipe, and then wait a week and then mix it, and then they've invested this $20 or $30 and then a week of their time waiting, and then they hate it, right? It's fucking horrible, right? So like, it's kind of lofty to assume that they owe us a review for wasting all their time and money,
I laugh because I've done that several times.
Right.
But it's a learning experience, it's a learning experience, I think, when you do that.
Well, I'll agree on the learning experience part, but not everybody's in DIY for like magnitudes of learning experiences, right? So like we have a lot of learning experiences. True. Like I think DIY taught me more about failure than my 10 years in the Army and any of my childhood. Like, because I failed a lot, and I still fail all the time.
Especially with Flavora.
Yeah, Flavora has been like a really kind of frustrating journey overall. Well,
I think Vexling makes a really good point too. Not only feedback is a very important thing. If you mix up a mixer stuff, please make sure to leave some kind of feedback, because that's encouragement for one. To keep us mixing and publishing recipes. It's also a great way to gauge the palettes that are out there. When we're publishing a recipe, it's not for us. Obviously we could make a recipe, put it in a book, and leave it. But publishing it to the population or to the community, we believe that other people are going to enjoy it. That's why I do it. I don't do it for any sort of notoriety or anything like that. It's just something I really enjoy. If I like the recipe, if I love it, I put it out for other people to enjoy. So to hear a thank you, or to hear, this was good or this was awful, you know what I mean? If you think it's awful, leave that comment, because a real mixer is going to take that as constructive criticism, and they're going to, build on it. So if they're new, if they're old, if they've been around a long time, they're really experienced. We all put out bad recipes sometimes. It happens. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I got mountains of them.
Yeah,
somebody made a joke the other day, because I have 190 recipes on ELR from the last year alone that I released. And I had no
Yeah,
idea.
you and Adam have like.
Well, so like my general
I mean-
rule of thumb for a long time was just like if I vaped more than 30 mils of this and I enjoyed it still at the end and thought maybe I'd make that again, I just release it to the wild. Like I just let it go. Even if I think it could be better or I could revise it, I might come back and fuck with it again and then re-release it and delete the original or whatever. Or some, because there's like probably 10 or 15 recipes on there that are like really similar to other recipes that are up there because they're kind of continuations of a thought process, you know? So, I mean, there's something to be said for the shotgun effect, right? Like releasing like 20 recipes at a time every week or two, which is what I was doing for a long time, but I've definitely slowed that down a lot with all the new projects this year with EJM and the MixLife show and consulting picking up. Like, it's definitely been a little crazier this year, so I haven't been able to release nearly as much. Although that should change soon. Hopefully I'll get through this big batch of consulting in the next week or two, and then I can really start pushing the DIY content a little bit more. ATF does have a most mix counter on your recipes. If you go and look at your recipes, you can sort by the most often, like the ones that have been mixed the most. It doesn't say specifically how many times, but it does say which ones have been mixed the most. Thanks. Yeah, all right.
That's a good feature.
So, and then there's one thing to add about giving reviews. Like, I'm all for people telling me that my juice sucks and they want to, but a caveat to that is that you're really doing everyone a favor if you tell them why it sucks. It was harsh. The blueberry was too fucking much, and I couldn't taste anything else, or whatever. Like, even if it's just one, it doesn't have to be like a long-winded, like paragraphs long review. They can just be like, all I could taste in this was perfume, or all I can taste is this or that. I'm not sure if there's an individual counter. I'll look at it at the end, I think, maybe, and see what we can do. So
yeah, just a few words. It doesn't have to be like Rick's, Reddit post. It can be, just a few
Rick's
words.
Reddit posts. It's funny that he's famous for that now. I used to be the guy that was accused of being too long-winded. I would write recipe posts that were like 2 pages long or 3 pages long.
Yeah, if you look at them, most of the middle of that is actually just copy and pasted the same sentence over and over again. People just haven't noticed yet, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like any kind of response, it doesn't have to be positive. Like, don't hesitate. Oh, I don't want to offend anybody. We're not going to get offended. Well, I might get offended. I might be like, "Fuck you, man," but probably not. Any criticism for people is good because that's what helps us grow, and that's what helps us gauge like what people want too. For us, people who are developing for market, and for people who are just beginning, like that, it's just super helpful. Like knowing what worked well and what didn't. Obviously, if you make a juice and you release it, and you think it's like the best fucking thing ever, and somebody leaves you a bad review, and obviously it's not going to stop you or affect you from mixing it for yourself. But now that when you go to offer it to others or suggest it to others, say, hey, this person didn't care for it as much, but Dave Bellows, the copy pasted bastard, that was it. Oh, he's talking about Rick.
Well, and then the other thing, it's really easy to get emotionally attached to your recipes, and I found that even when like you have that initial response of, well, that's bullshit. After it kind of settles in for a little bit, even like the stuff that ends up sounding way too negative on the outset, you still kind of learn to deal with that criticism and work it in. Maybe not, in such like a hyperbolic way, but you end up taking that criticism anyway too. So, I don't think people should necessarily be afraid to be too negative as long as there's some actual content to those thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to say this fucking sucks balls, but at least tell me why it fucking sucks balls.
And like, what kind of balls does it suck? I need a description of like texture, firmness, all that other stuff.
Yeah, is it sweaty balls or like swamp ass balls?
Is it saline balls? I mean,
is there a little bit of cheese?
Bit of Fermunda going on?
I was just gonna say that. You got me. Great minds. I always click the mix button just because it's a courtesy thing. Like, I want that mixer to know that one more person is fucked with their stuff. So But that being said, there's not very many other people's recipes on ATF that I have been mixing. I think that's the thing I want to start doing with the show. Kind of showcase one like sort of like overlooked recipe on all the flavors and maybe get it a little attention and to talk about it, get some discourse going. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I think once a week I might try to commit to just mixing a random recipe, not one of the most popular ones, like kind of whatever, like something that's random and overlooked, just to get a little attention for stuff, you know?
Definitely. And I can see you're not the only human calculator. Apparently, who mentioned that? Who was it? I don't want to say the wrong name here. Dent Man.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Dent and Vex both said they don't
just look at a recipe.
Yeah, definitely.
I've never done that.
That's fine. Yeah, well, I mean, 30 mils, dude, like the math is always the same, right? So if you do it 10,000 times, like you just start to memorize how much 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, all that stuff goes. Like sometimes if I'm in a hurry, like I don't even use a calculator. I just throw a bottle on, dump the shit in it, and shake it up and go. Like if I'm in a rush or whatever. And it always works out fine. I might be a little off, but I mean, it's just for something quick to mix to have to vape at work or whatever when I'm on the run.
I guess I bounce back and forth between 5, 10s, 15s, and 30 mils too much.
Yeah, see, I pretty much exclusively do 10s and 30s and only sometimes 15s. But even then, the math is only, it's either half or a third of what it would have been a 30, right? So it's still like pretty simple math. Clayton can't do math, guys.
I cannot. It's not my strong point. No. Unfortunately.
It just takes practice. You do it all. Yeah, I was just checking here. I think they're talking about non-account mixers being part of a factor of the not knowing how many times your stuff is mixed. That's something. And I know that's a block on ATF too. Like people that don't have accounts can't leave you a review. You can leave the Facebook review in the discussion section as opposed to like the official review. So that works out pretty well. I do the math in my head, but I mean, I'm weird. So I did it on paper for like the first year and a half that I mixed. I didn't use a calculator online or anything. Like I just did it like with a pencil, which is, you know, like a caveman, I'm sure. But ELR was like just starting out or just becoming popular, really popular that year. I did it anyways.
Were you on ECF? Were you ever on ECF?
I lurked on ECF, but I never actually signed up and like posted ever, because some of the community like kind of made me want to tear my hair out a little bit. They're not all bad people, you know, but they, out of anybody, I think they're probably the least approachable group for a brand new person. At least for me, I didn't find them very approachable at all.
That's debatable with Reddit. I think they're like this.
I looked on Reddit for like, no, I can't say you're wrong, because I looked on Reddit for like 6 months or 7 months before I just like, in a drunken stupor, decided it was a good idea to go for it, and I posted, and it went well, so it was fine. And then from then on, like, I was kind of like the quiet kid in the corner that nobody talked to anyways. So like a lot of my posts would get a lot of upvotes, but not a lot of comments or interaction. Like people obviously liked the recipes or work, but nobody said anything about it. So I was just like, yeah, all right, that's cool. But I wrote really long notes, so people loved that shit. And then eventually it just kind of started to pick up. Last year, I did this long post with kind of like a beginner's primer on starting with floral flavors, which at the time, like nobody was talking about florals anywhere ever. And like my floral recipes all sat in the dark on ELR with like no stars and no ratings and no reviews. And then I made that post last year, and it was really long. It was like super duper long. And it got a lot of attention, and a lot of people started talking a lot more about florals, and then like herbal vapes and all kinds of other stuff. It started a really big discussion that's kind of just sort of snowballed. I mean, I'm obviously not the only person that's ever used florals, so I would be leery of, crediting myself with florals were super duper niche flavorings. And I think me and Chiba Steva at the time were the only two people really talking or mixing with them like publicly and really pushing them at the time. Although other people were using them, Darth Vapor was starting to release recipes with floral flavorings around the same time last year. It was like middle of summer, I want to say. But over the course of winter, they slowly kind of started to pick up steam, and I mean now they're probably in the best place they'll ever be. Because I think that even despite how often people talk about them, you know, my viewership on ATF and ELR, and even here, you know, it still reflects that the popularity level of florals is always going to be far below that of, you know, strawberries and fucking cream, right? But that's fine. I mean, I never really expected them to be popular in the first place, so it was just something that I really enjoyed and wanted to change. I haven't watched ATF the past few days. I've been really busy. 2 violets, honeysuckle, and a hibiscus. Well, I like that. That's good. Violet's a really excellent flavoring that I think is super overlooked. I laughed so hard when you mentioned Dave, when Dave mentioned FA Violet in the mix when he was on there, and everybody just kind of went, Violet. You know, because it's a really out there flavoring, because it sounds way more floral than it is. Like when you think about the violet, like the only thing you literally think about is a flower or the color purple. And violet, for lack of a better description, actually tastes like purple, right? It's like a purple candy. It's really super duper candy with a very light floral finish, but it's really like sickly sweet, super duper sweet. And the reason I use it in Mango Beauregard was because violet and mango share some of the same chemical composition. So the aroma volatiles are actually like close to identical. So when you mix them together, like the mango isn't a mango anymore, and the violet isn't a violet anymore. Like it's sort of like this one new thing, right? Like a really purple candied mango, like a not grape. Grape is the wrong word. I'm not sure where to go with it. Yeah, it's like purple candy. I don't know how else to describe it. If you ever had violet candies or like, what are they? I'm trying to think. It's tough to describe, but it's really good. I think it's a really fun flavoring, and I think people should use it more often.
I'd be interested to see if there's really a mulberry out there.
A mulberry?
Since that came up earlier, yeah, in the chat. When it came up in the chat earlier, I was really intrigued by it. I was thinking, like, I haven't seen one.
Mulberry. I don't think anybody mixed a mulberry. Mixers Club will be happy.
Berry with all the tartness removed, I think.
Like a blackberry? Have you tried
It's like a blackberry.
Have you tried TPA huckleberry?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one of my most popular recipes is huckleberry cheesecake. A guy in California begged me to make one like 2 years ago. So I ordered it. It was extremely floral, you know, at like 2%. I was like, holy crap, this is a potent flavor. So I had to back it down and eventually landed that nice, like sweet, tart middle ground, you know.
Yeah.
Huckleberry, I actually love it. You know, right around 1%. It's a great addition to a lot of other things.
Snosberry tastes like snosberry. That was like a juice thing too, like a trend. Snosberries. Does anybody remember those?
No.
It was like a peach mango thing. I don't know, but I saw them everywhere.
Fucking Adam.
Like the local shops. It's fucking Adam throwing
Adam,
us.
man.
Yeah, huckleberry definitely has a floral and tartness.
Mm-hmm.
I've never actually had a mulberry, so I don't know. I was just.
I haven't either, but I've heard of them.
Red.
We live in Virginia, where all we've got is corn and potatoes.
Red licorice, TPA's red licorice goes really good with just some strawberry, but it fades with a steep really badly, so it needs some extra fruit to help it stay in the mix a little bit longer. It's good fresh though, and if you just vape the shit out of it, you can mix it often, you're fine. But I noticed after a week, I didn't taste much red licorice anymore. It was just kind of cloying sweetness after the fact. So you need to mix it with some fruit, strawberry, raspberry, a little bit of lemon to help it stick around. Both help out. Snosberry means penis. Good to know, Dave. I know what I'm sending you with the next Mixers Club packs.
What are you gonna send him, a dilder?
What was that?
So what are you gonna send him, a dilder?
Maybe I will. I think Dave needs a few new ones.
Oh boy.
They're all getting pretty well used right now. You got to refresh that every once in a while.
Yeah, the strap-on guy needs extra strap-ons, you know. Vex gets credit for that, I think. No, it was Riddick. Yeah, it says the strap-on guy. It really does mean penis. Well, thank you for that lesson today, Dave. I'm glad to know that Snosberry means penis.
You're infinitely wiser because of your input.
I am. I feel enlightened. I can't read this Fender guy because I don't. Is there a translation option or something?
As for the building blocks,
I
like
recognize the word yellow.
Sorry, Clayton. What did you say?
Oh, you're good. As for what we were talking about earlier, as far as like building blocks go, I found an app on, I have Android, but I'm sure it's available on iPhones as well. It's an app called Yumly. If you haven't checked that out, you should. Like, there's a ton of delicious looking recipes on there. And I'm drawing some inspiration from it now, for some springtime mixes. Some nice cucumber, some nice cucumber mixes. Trying to get away from the cucumber mint.
I want to find a way to make Flavora cucumber not mushy, because it's the best fucking cucumber flavor, but it has this like kind of gooey, mushy texture that just kills it for me. Rick, have you had any success?
Do you have Copella's? You have Copella's cucumber?
I have TPA's cucumber, which I really like. But Flavora is just such a really great full-bodied flavor, but it's just like there's like a gooey mouthfeel to it, which kind of ruins the crispness.
Yeah, I had some problems with that. Not that I think that it's a bad cucumber flavor, but I have this thing where you mix sweetness and cucumber and it just gets really gnarly to me all of a sudden. And, it has a decent body, but I couldn't really look past the sweetness in there.
Yeah, it gets muddy when you mix it with other stuff really fast. So it's a good
Matt Digital makes.
I'll have to pick up some. No, it's okay. I just saw Darren Cole gave a second shout out for Cap, so I guess I'll have to put that on a list of shit that I can't afford right now.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, Caps is fantastic.
Also, yeah, and Matt Digital. You think saline would work to kind of dry out that Flavora a little bit?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really use saline too often, just because I find the coil gunking. I get coil gunking when I use saline. And I find that the trade-off isn't really worth it, usually.
It's only really worth it to me when it's in a bakery. It really helps peanut butter and chocolates, from my experience.
Yeah, I can see it really helping peanut butter and chocolate. And then the trade-off might be worth it, because you're already going to get fucked coils with fucking chocolate anyways. But yeah, I agree with that. Saline as a good additive to peanut butter and chocolates.
It kind of bugs me. I've been in that debate with Skittles for a while. He hates saline. He doesn't, for whatever reason. He thinks that it doesn't contribute anything. But that's what they add to flavor with salted caramel. So
I don't think it adds any direct salt flavor, but it does impart a kind of dryness to the mix. So I think it helps in some ways for sure. But again, for me, it's the trade-off. With sometimes you have to take that trade-off. Do you want it to wreck your coils? Which isn't really a big deal, because most of us DIY and build our own coils anyways. So trash coils aren't really a game changer. But
after trying a few of the Flavor Art and Flavora from them, it stuck around even for the second and third pair of coils. So not that mad about it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's okay.
I'm really in love with Flavora peanut butter right now, despite how much it tends to fucking just bully the shit out of everything else in the mix.
Isn't it just peanutty? I don't get a lot of butter out of it. I just get
it's not very buttery, but the peanut flavor is next to nothing, man. It can't be beat. It's the best peanut flavor. Inaware peanuts is really good, but it's really ridiculously dry and stupid potent. Flavor Art has a peanut flavor that I want to get, but I have yet to pick up yet. I'm planning a big Flavor Art order hopefully next month. There's a bunch of their new stuff that I want to try, specifically the new citrus flavors. You guys tried those yet?
Yeah, I just got those in. I'm really excited to dig into them. Shout out to Bull City for sending them over. So yeah, I should have a review up on those sometime in the next week.
Dome Junkie made kind of a cool little suggestion. Maybe you should try cucumber and peanut butter. That'd be kind of how would that work? That peanut butter have to be kind of low, wouldn't it?
Cucumber and peanut butter?
Yeah, you said his girlfriend
like
eats peanut butter and cucumber sandwiches.
I was gonna say that cucumber and peanut butter sandwiches. That's interesting. I never considered that being like a. I'm weird enough. I'd give it a try.
Right?
It can be done. I think TPA cucumber might be better suited for it. Because it's kind of a. I don't know the concrete.
It's a more full-bodied.
The Flavora one might work because it's kind of jammy. I noticed that a trend with all the fruits. I think that might be what's causing the cucumber weirdness is that all of their fruit flavorings are really jam. Like a lot of them are really jam centric. Like all the strawberries have like a kind of jam quality. Red raspberry, I didn't like it first because it gave a really fucking crazy chemical taste, like the Band-Aids sort of in Aware milk chocolate. But then after like 3 to 5 days, it calmed down a lot. But again, it's really jammy, and you can like taste the seeds in the jam and everything. It's good. I think it has the potential to be like the new jam thing. Like it's good. It's really good. The red raspberry, not the regular raspberry. The regular raspberry is really jammy also, though. Might be a texture thing and saying, yeah, see, I think it, I don't know that peanut butter, I mean, I'd be willing to go for it, but I think it might be, it's like those people that put crushed up Doritos on their peanut butter sandwiches, you know?
A pregnant woman's recipe.
That was like my mom's like, fuck you, I'm not buying lunch meat, eat this instead. When I was a kid, but that's what we got.
If you end up finalizing a recipe with cucumber and peanut butter, you should definitely call it belly bump or something like that. You know,
belly bump, right? And pickles too. I mean pickles.
Yeah. Some dill pickle.
Flavor Art makes a pickle flavor. I think I might need to order it.
I tried it. It's pretty good actually. It actually tastes like a pickle. I mean, it's pretty good if you like pickles.
Yeah, shout out to Flavor Art's weird savory line. There's some of those that are actually surprisingly not horrible, despite what you might think. Like the roast beef, I have roast beef. It's pretty good. It tastes like a deli sandwich. It doesn't taste bad. It's not off. It will fucking ruin your atomizer, and you'll have to like soak it in bleach for a year to get it out of there. But it is good. So there's that. I have
you tried any of Hankson's?
They have savory flavors?
Oh yeah, man. They have teriyaki. They have hot dog. They've got ketchup. They've got beef. Oh man, they've got a lot, dude. A lot of very strange savory things that you wouldn't even think to try.
That sounds fun. I'll have to look into it. Bull City doesn't carry most of those, though. I had to order direct, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I will say I'm a pretty big fan of Hankson's beer, actually, for what it is. It tastes like vaping Steel Reserve, which is kind of awesome.
Steel Reserve, man. That is rough. Hey, so beer nuts,
Rick's
though.
ghetto background is coming out.
What's that? Rick's ghetto background's coming out. That's Steel Reserve.
I'm ghetto all the way, man. White trash for life.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I'm right there with you, buddy. I have like 20 PBR t-shirts laying around here somewhere and some old trucker hats. I'm ready. And beer nuts, it was the other one I wanted to talk about today, is my weird flavor to talk about today. I think that there's actually some really serious potential to beer nuts. I don't get like a literal beer nut. It's like a dry peanutish, but it's really like the salty texture is probably the most like salt flavor I've ever gotten out of a single flavor. I think it's kind of offensively strong, but I think it could really go really super far in like a peanut butter mix to really like finish off the savory edge of a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, I think the beer. Oh, sorry, go for it, man.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. My thought can wait. Yours is probably significantly more valuable.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, that beer nuts name throws people off, but it's really just really salty, really grainy nut mix. It's actually pretty cool stuff.
I wonder if that could be implemented with nut mix.
Yeah, I'm sure it could be. But it's got a lot of really great like nut body already, like on its own. Like I don't really. It's the first time because usually when I want to put like a nutty texture into a flavor, like I usually have to go with like nut mix and a little acetylpriazine and like this and that, and like I have to layer it. But I feel like beer nuts is a lot stronger in its presentation, not just in potency, but in presentation. Like it's really just good like the way it is with shut up Vex, your nut body. I'll get you back.
I had that thought some time ago to create a bar experience. I wanted to, combine like Hanks beer with, flavor art peanut or something, just to create that kind of, I'm sitting at the bar, drinking, eating peanuts.
Don't forget some Inaware dirty neutral base to get the stink of the smoking section going on there too. We were just talking about that in Discord last night about how completely horrible Inaware dirty neutral base is.
Or Flavora's commercial cigarette. Have you mixed that up yet?
I have. It wasn't as offensive as I thought it was going to be. It's dry.
It was to my
it's kind of
palate.
trashy tobacco, but it's not that bad. It's not as bad as dirty neutral base.
Yeah, it's.
I think I kind of.
Oh no, it's all good. I was gonna say I think it's on the same spectrum as of dirty neutral base, but it doesn't seem nearly as out there. It's actually good stuff. That beer nuts too. Speaking of tobacco, works pretty well as a tobacco additive.
Yeah, that was my next thought. Was I think that it would be really good in a red burley heavy sort of native tobacco forward tobacco mix. Like it's just a real serious. Yeah, actually. Rory just said it smells like an ashtray. Dirty neutral base actually tastes like your ashtray smelled when it was too full. Like and it sat for a week in the heat. It's disgusting. A nail, a beer chased with peanuts. Hanks beer could actually probably really fill that role with a little bit of. Have you guys tried Flavora apple cider yet?
I did after you sent me the recipe. What, a month ago, something like that?
Oh yeah, when we first got these. Yeah, dude, this apple cider is delicious. Hands down, like it's got a really great like boozy cider texture. The apple in it isn't super potent, so I found that I needed to dress it up with another apple. But you could really go anywhere with it. All of the Flavora apple flavors have been really good so far. Maybe, but it's pretty much replaced liquid amber for me for like the boozy cider texture flavor. And coming up on springtime, I think that's gonna be one of my staples with that apple cider. I really enjoy it. I think the apple could really be the piss flavor for when you go to the toilet without washing your hands. You're a filthy fucking man, Darren. Filthy man. Anyway, so I think apple cider has a really great potential for having some really great like creative cider blends, because you could really add any darker fruit that's even kind of stronger than an apple. And I think get a lot of. You can taste the flowers. Honeybee, yeah, you can taste the flowers. It's a little on the floral side, but I really enjoy the. Why is this fucking thing doing that? I really enjoy the super sweet jasmine notes for honeybee. In fact, I think it's actually a better jasmine than most of the other jasmines. It just isn't. I mean, obviously, it's kind of hard to separate it from that really strong honey texture. But I like honeybee. It's probably the best honey on the market right now, aside from Flavor Art honey, of course. Flavor Art honey I have to dilute to work with because it's offensively potent. Have you worked with Flavor Art honey, either of you guys?
Never had the chance, no.
I have a 30 ml of it, so I'll send you some because I'll never ever fucking use it.
Like a 3 lifetime supply.
Yeah. Like I bought it thinking like FA saffron. Yeah, it tastes like diesel fuel to me. I need to go back and try my dilution tests again because it is disgusting. Even at 0.2%, it was like way too much, way too strong. It wrecks everything, and it tastes like diesel to me, like legitimate fuel. It tastes like the gas station smells.
I love your offensive flavor notes. It's beautiful.
It's fucking disgusting. Adam sent it to me because he had this really great idea for like a flavor wheel, where we were gonna like try to hit all the points on the traditional chef's flavor wheel, and anyway, so he sent me saffron, and I tried it in like a really simple bakery mix. Oh, hang on, I gotta answer this real fast. In a really simple bakery mix, and then yeah, it completely destroyed it. The whole thing tasted like sugar and diesel fuel. It was terrible. We're hitting up the end, so I do want to go over one last little thing I'll be planning for the show in the near future for the channel. We're not 100% certain that we're going to be doing these all live, but at some point soon in the next 2 weeks, I'll be doing a live show with Vex from Discord. He's going to come on the show maybe after the end of a regular broadcast, and we're going to do sort of a beginner versus seasoned mixer sort of like standoff, where he's going to ask me a bunch of really annoying, retarded questions, and I'm going to answer them. You know, and then we're going to do a series after that where we collect kind of all the most commonly asked questions in the community, like how do I store my nicotine? How do I fucking whatever? You know, what's the best way to build a recipe? And kind of just do a short series of like 20-30 minute videos to release on the channel to use for new mixers to use as reference. So they'll go on the MixLife app and they'll go on ejuicemakers.com, and they'll be available for on the YouTube channel as well, just if you want to check them out. So those will be coming soon. Next week for the show, I will be not here, so Adam will be hosting, and he's gonna have a special ninja guest that I'll let him announce when he's ready. Search caffeine. Oh, actually, I do have something to say about that real quick. So our bodies don't metabolize caffeine from vaping the same way that we do nicotine. So you don't, like, the benefit is really minor. Like you don't get anything out of it, basically, is the short version. It doesn't really have a flavor. It just doesn't translate well into a vape, just like sort of like a lot of other things that don't translate well into vaping. So the caffeine isn't heat stable. It's mostly destroyed in the process of vaping it, and then you get like next to nothing out of it. So you don't metabolize it. So it's kind of a placebo. You can't really vape nicotine or caffeine and get anything out of it. There's no proven fact that it's not good to vaporize, but there's definitely you don't get anything out of it because it's not heat stable. So most of it burns off before you it loses all its potency just in the process of creating putting it into a vapor form. You're better off if you're a caffeine junkie. You can do like I do, and you can purchase concentrated liquid nicotine or caffeine and learn how to use it properly, and you can just make your own energy drinks. Like carbonated energy drinks are really easy to make on your own. I DIY everything, not just juice, so we'll see some of that coming from the.
I think it's in the same boat with using flavor like dyes in your flavors. You know,
there's no benefit to using food coloring at all.
No.
And with food coloring, there's actually even potential harm because some food colorings have additives and preservatives to help them remain shelf stable and have a long shelf life. And we don't know the long-term effects of all those additives and what they could do to our bodies over the long term. So just saying. And we'll go over that too in the beginner's mix. Like, why can't I use these fucking Watkins baking flavors that I got at Walmart in my e-juice? Why can't I vape McCormick's? Because I feel like that's a question you get really often. I get really often. So if you have other questions that you want to have hosted on the show, send them to me in a PM on Facebook, and I'll answer them eventually. Or leave them in the chats or whatever. Like, I'm all over the community and I'm always accessible. So get them to me and Vex and I'll make sure we bring them on the show. So it'll just be like a series of 10 or 20 questions each sitting to talk about, stuff that new people are asking all the time. And we'll be kind of lurking the Facebook groups and sourcing questions from there too. So if you have a question you want featured or answered on air or just in the videos, shoot me a message and let me know. You guys got anything else for today? I think we're going to get ready to wrap this up in a few minutes.
Not really, no.
No, I think we covered it.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for coming on, guys. I appreciate it. I know today was sort of a last minute kind of planning. So I wasn't as ahead of the game as I wanted to be this week, but I was really busy with this new client, so I ended up not having any time for fucking anything. So that being said, much love. Thanks for watching, everybody. Any last minute questions from the chat? Any last minute comments from the peanut gallery? Dave, do you want to take one more jab at Rick before I let him go?
You probably should. I'm feeling a little bit too good about myself right now.
Right, yeah, like you're popular and stuff, man. Right?
Yeah.
That's the word.
Fame. Hashtag vape fame.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the podcast. Don't disconnect, guys. I got a few words real quick before I cut off. Great great show. I had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Adam does when he runs away with it.
Kopel's going to verbally abuse us in a moment.
I'm going to beat them in a submission right now.
We've screwed everything up.
Cheers. Much love.